Let's move now to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the keynote address at South Africa's National Day of Reconciliation today, Monday, the 16th of December 2024, in Vredendal, Western Cape. This year's theme, Healing Historical Wounds and Forging New Futures, underscores efforts towards reconciliation and national unity. The holiday, established in 1995 after apartheid, reflects the country's commitment to healing and social cohesion. The event will honor South Africa's diverse history, celebrate veterans, and focus on fostering racial harmony and nation building. The government chose December 16 for its cultural significance to Afrikaner and indigenous South African traditions, highlighting shared history. President Ramaphosa's address will call for continued progress towards reconciliation and the forging of a unified future. And to further discuss this, we're now joined by National Spokesperson, United Africa's Transformational Party, Mighty Mabule. Mighty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me and Kani Mambo.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Mighty Mabule. Now, let's dive straight into it. Mighty, how exactly has the National Day of Reconciliation evolved since its inception in 1995? And how effective has it been in fostering national unity in South Africa?
Thank you once more. The National Day of Elections, honestly speaking, when you look at the South African circumstances and all the socio-economic challenges that are facing us as a country, it doesn't really make impact. When you look at what is actually happening in this country, it is kind of regarded just as some kind of another holiday, you know, where people move away from work and so on. Because remember, as a country, we come from a brutal system of apartheid, where as Africans, we're not allowed to participate in the mainstream of economy. Land has been taken away from us. Now, when you talk reconciliation, reconciliation must be able to heal those wounds. I hear the president when he spoke about healing the wounds, but you cannot talk about healing the wounds. You cannot talk about fostering unity if a fundamental resource like land was not returned to the people, because land is a dignity to Africans, land is prosperity to us, land is economic power to us. So when you look at what has actually happened since the coining of this day, the Day of Reconciliation, as South Africans, many of us were actually saying it didn't really make much impact because poverty is still very rampant in this country. Hunger is still very rampant. Land is still in the hands of the few, of the white minority. And when you look at our kids, you know, in that poverty statistics, you know, the greater part of it is young people who finish school with diplomas and degrees but cannot work. So, and I don't want to talk about the racism that is still rampant and so on. So it's just like another day that is celebrated with political engagement and many political jargons, but in the true sense of the word, we did not really reconcile. The wounds are still there. The country is still divided. People are still poor, and our dignity, which is land, has never been returned to us.
Asking about the theme for this year. Now, the year's theme focuses on healing historical wounds and forging new futures. What specific measures or programs has the government implemented to address these issues?
Look, the problems that we have are much, much bigger than the programs that were developed. There's been a number of programs that have been developed, but unfortunately, those programs did not really make impact in terms of addressing those socio-economic challenges that are actually facing our people. I'll give an example about the Triple BE legislation, which was designed initially to kind of address the imbalances of the past. But what has happened is that the economy is still in the hands of the white minority, but the same legislation was able to empower, you know, only the politically connected. So the country is still suffering some kind of economic injustices, hunger rampant, poverty rampant, but those programs did not actually assist in terms of addressing those imbalances. Now, when talking about land, remember we're also talking about mining. We're also talking about agriculture. We're talking about tourism. Those are the key economic drivers when you look at the South African economic architecture. But all those things, our people as Africans, we are not participating in the mainstream of those sectors from ownership point of view and from control point of view. So the programs are there. The programs are there, very, very scholastic and academic, but unfortunately, those programs cannot translate into bread and butter on the table. So you can have the best programs in the world, the best initiative in the world. But if those programs cannot change the lives of the people, cannot bring the dignity of the people back, then you run the risk of having irrelevant programs. Yes, there's a number of programs, the BE Commission, the BE Act that gave birth to the BE Commission, a number of transformation charters to make sure that different sectors are transformed. But if you look at the Black Economic Empowerment Commission report, you'll actually realize that not much has been achieved. I don't want to talk about employment equity, where it was the issue of addressing those injustices, where Africans were not allowed to participate in certain careers. You have an employment equity commission, but there's no teeth to bite. So honestly speaking, the president speaking about healing the wounds are still there. Forging new futures. How can you future if you have taken my fundamental dignity or my fundamental resource and you don't return it back to me and you're saying we must move forward? How do we reconcile and move forward if I've been robbed and all my powerful resources have been taken away from me? That is not possible.
All right. I also want to ask about the significance of hosting the event in Vredendal, Western Cape, and how does the location contribute to the broader goals of reconciliation?
Look, I'm also surprised in terms of the reason why the event was actually hosted in Vredendal, except the fact that it's a pure agricultural area that is a home for large wine sellers in South Africa, and it has a number of boutique wines and dried food depot, But the question remains, who are working there? Who are making this a powerful key economic driver? How are they treated? What is the ownership structure of that? I had the president talking about some of the farm workers, being part of the ownership of the structure. I participated personally in the committee that is working on making sure that the farm workers own those farm workers that work for 10, 20, 30 years are part of the ownership. It's not happening because those that robbed us, those that still have our wealth in their hands, they don't want to transform. So they should have taken these things to the rural areas of Limpopo, the rural areas of Eastern Cape, the rural areas of Northwest, so that they can see the poverty that is there, so that they can see that people are just struggling with basic water, just basic water. So they moved it to Western Cape, a purely agricultural area that is full of wines and processing plant that create an impression that we've reconciled and moving forward, which is just a pure superficial progress. So honestly speaking, I don't understand the reason why we took it there, because if you are really saying you have made progress, take it to the rural areas, to the poorest of the poor, so that you can be able to say, few years ago, these people were looking like this because of the intervention that they've actually implemented. Now they look like this. But as I've already indicated, is poverty, is a hunger. There's no medical facilities. There's no recreation facilities in the rural area. The water is still a challenge, and so on and so forth. So honestly speaking, I don't know the reason why they've taken it to Vredendal, except the fact that it's a pure agricultural area that is actually owned and managed by those that stole our land and are not willing to return it to us.
Okay, so Mighty, you are the national spokesperson for the United Africans Transformation Party. I'd like to ask you, what do you think your party would have done differently if you were the ones in power?
Yes. We if we're in power, would have done things differently. Look, the great revolutionary Fidel Castro said, the first task of a revolutionary is to tell the truth. If you really want to change the lives of the people, tell them the truth. Now, the first thing that we would have done as a Pan-Africanist organization that believe in the development of Africans is to tell the people the truth. The truth that said, when political power was negotiated, there was no pure negotiation on how economy and land will return to the people. That's a preamble. We'll say to the people, things did not go well. Things did not, things were not done properly when this thing was started. But as a United African transformation, one, we will make sure that we champion a land a program, a land ownership program, land utilization program. Because without land, it's very difficult to champion agricultural sector. Without land, it's very difficult to have an industrialization program. And globally, all powers across the world have been subscribing to industrialization program. There's no superpower that is actually, did not focus on industrialization. There's no industrialization without land. I don't want to talk about mining. I don't want to talk about tourism. So as United African Transformation was saying, land should be put at the center of all economic activities and come up with programs, land and tourism, land and agriculture, land and mining. And from there, you come up with initiative, then you fund the farmers, you fund the processors, you fund the tourist people, knowing very well that they own their own land, they are not paying the rent and so on. Then from there, out of the money that will generate from there, you'll be able to fund your education system, you'll fund your health system, you'll be able to create more jobs, you'll be able to grow the economy. So from the beginning, and even now in the 3 years of democracy, they are still struggling to ensure that the dignity of Africans is returned back to them. So as United African Transformation will champion real land program, because the land reform program in this country has failed.
All right. National Spokesperson, United Africans Transformation Party, Mighty Mabule, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting us.